Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, says Nigeria must reduce its dependence on borrowing and build a stronger, more reliable domestic revenue. Edun spoke on Tuesday at the Nigerian Revenue Service Leadership Retreat in Abuja. The minister also says the country can no longer depend on foreign funding to sustain its economy as global capital flows to developing countries continue to shrink. Now, according to Edun, the global financial system is increasingly fragmented, with countries turning inward and retreating from multilateral cooperation. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, also says the federal government plans to start selling state-owned assets to private investors in 2026. Edun spoke on Monday during an interview on the sidelines of the Alula Conference for Emerging Market Economies in Saudi Arabia. He said the government is currently working on determining which assets will be offered for sale, as well as the timelines for the transactions. Joining me now, as always, to discuss this in more detail is Arise business analyst Chika Mbonu. Good morning to you, Mr. Chika.
How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Yeah. Let's begin with the one I just picked now, the federal government's decision to commence sale of state-owned assets in 2026. What should we know about this?
Okay, let's just reassure our viewers as Nigeria is not being sold, even though, I don't know, some may like
That's
Nigeria.
That's a good place to start.
Maybe the people like Nigeria to be
what's
sold.
What's happening?
But it's not entirely new, Abby. Governments around the world occasionally sell assets, constitution assets, get private sector involved in even the running assets of the government. Yeah. If you go through the several reports that have been put out in the past, you'll see, for example, Nigeria has so many idle lands, so many unoccupied buildings, very many agencies that are very unprofitable, they're just consuming money. And then, of course, massive overheads in everywhere. I mean, you need to look around and see. Nigeria is a very good case study in this. The other aspect of it is also that it's known worldwide that the private sector, realistically, tends to generate more revenues and run enterprises better than the public sector. Yeah. Nigeria is littered with the graveyard of things like Nigerian Airways, Nigerian shipping lines, even our own dear NNPC and its refineries. So the report that the current MD of NNPC put out the other day, how much has been wasted in running refineries, and yet we have the Dangote refinery up there. So the issue then is not that it's strange that assets can be, assets can be sold. That's not the point. The point has to do with, what are these assets that will be sold? What are they? Which ones are going to be sold? And then, would they be sold cheaply? How would transparent would the processes be? We've always known that when some of this happens in Nigeria, the citizens don't trust the process. We believe that when things like this happen, the government people who are involved will always find a way of, selling these assets cheaply to their friends. The citizens don't trust the process. I mean, you need to look at when you have things like, the custom is doing, sales of seized assets. People just say, I don't know anybody there, or they tell you that, the things already been predetermined, who to buy and who to listen. You want to go and apply for a job in the government, they'll tell you, I don't want to go there because they already selected who they want to. So the citizens don't really trust the process. So would I say be sold cheaply? Would the process be transparent? Would there be opportunities for Nigerians to buy? That's another thing, But what are the effect of the workers if those are sold to the private sector? Because one of the things that happen now is you're going to cut ahead. And then the other thing is also, will it be a case of, killing the hen that lays the golden egg? In the sense that, are we going to sell income-generating assets in the short term to finance deficit, which is one of the reasons why we have this is being pushed out. Government needs more revenue. So are we going to sell our income generating assets to fund deficit in the short term? Is that going to happen? So what's the criterion for selecting those kind of assets? So those are critical in this process happening. But does it happen? Yes, worldwide. Government can sell assets surplus. Nigeria has So many unoccupied buildings, wasting assets, unused lands. So many enterprises are not doing very well. That will do better in private sector hands. So I guess that's what the minister is pushing.
Very important points there. It's very necessary to trim the excesses, as you highlighted, but it's also, I wish we had answers to these very important questions that you asked, because one would expect that data and analysis, for instance, would improve the timing and evaluation of public asset sales. And so we hope to get some more answers to that as in a few days, hopefully. Let's look next at the finance minister and coordinating minister, again saying that Nigeria must rely on domestic revenue to reduce dependence on debt. What's your outtake from this?
We don't need to go far. I mean, there's this saying that we used to say, those days, he who goes borrowing goes sorry. See, the more you borrow, all these debts come with interest payments. The cost of servicing debts is increasing every day. We'll see the figure sometime that the local government revenue goes towards servicing these borrowings to finance the government expenditures. Now, so if you are pushing these borrowings, the issue therefore is, how are we using the borrowings? How are we using the borrowings? How do we raise these revenues that the government requires to reduce the borrowings? As I said, if you borrow more, interest payments are higher. The higher interest payments you pay, the less money you have to provide, health, roads for citizens of the country. So the issue, therefore, Abby, is, can we realistically increase government revenue in an economy where the generality of the companies are struggling? The generality of the citizens are also struggling. What do we do about that? Now, the people will push to you and say, oh, GDP is growing, this is happening. Well, the growing GDP has limitations because it can be at the apex. The people at the middle may actually be getting poorer and poorer. So, yes, it's good to finance, stop borrowing, and generate locally. Locally through what? Increase taxes again, which will be tied to the other story that you read. Yeah. But if that starts becoming a burden for the citizens, it becomes a problem. So it's not just about that. It has to do also with how do we prudently use the revenues that we have. But cutting the level of borrowing, is it good for the economy? Yes, it's good for the economy. The better tax collection systems, reducing the leakages in the system, those will help in reducing the borrowing. And what the important thing at the end of the day is that, what do we use for the borrowing? If you look at our economy, you will find that there's a lot of ostentatious living at the government side. A lot of assets, projects that are not really value adding to the system. That will create additional wealth, create employment for the people. People are doing, every state now is trying to have an airport that can land Airbus 380, largest plane in the world. Meanwhile, he may have only one flight per week because of that. So there are a lot of white elephant projects being done. Revenues are increasing, as we hear, but people are still in poverty. Okay. Revenues are increasing, but we see people still owed salaries and pension. So those are the balance of the issues. Yes, generate revenues domestically, stop borrowing, goods in paper. Is it recycled? I've had this several times. But this time around, the issue is, how do we implement it to make sure that it's better and it lasts better?
Another very important point. Surely, data possibly could be used to enhance revenue compliance and broaden the tax base. But as you highlighted, that we cannot underestimate the importance of the knock-on and domino effects of all the trickle effect that is. Let's move on to the Nigerian Revenue Service target of 40.71 trillion naira for 2026. What are the feasibilities here, realistically?
This is about 44% increase over that of previous year. Yeah. I mean, it's like you're earning 2.8 million naira last year, and now you want to earn 4 million naira this year. You're going to ask yourself, that's possible, of course, but where would this income come from? Again, it means that as we have had them, it's taxes, more taxes, and more taxes, and that's that. So, are there positives? Of course, yes. It means Nigeria is relying less now on oil revenues. which should be the case, that non-revenue should account for more for government spending. We are depending less on government on borrowing, which is ties to the story that we had you dealt with previously. That the Minister of Finance says borrowing should reduce, and then we'll have more budget stability, which is okay, and more funds for infrastructure. Those are very good things to happen. But the issue is that targets are good, but targets don't build roads.
Certainly,
you don't really know that. So businesses may feel the tax pressure. Business may feel the tax pressure. So it's not just grow the economy or grow tax, but it's also to grow the economy. So note that it's not just one line message, grow tax, that we want to move tax. But the issue is that where the tax is going to come from. Are the business and the economy growing? So the government must also intentionally grow the economy. As I'm leaving the house today, Abby, my generator is on throughout the night, has been. Tanker of water every week, personal. Borehole every week. Security, self-organized. And all these things contribute to the cost of running business. What's tax really? Tax is the government's way, paying the government back part of your profit for assisting you make life easier for your business. So is that really happening? So I say grow the economy, not just the tax. So what the government do? Make compliance easy, grow the economy as I thought about, reduce waste. That's very important. So it's not just about the tax that the NRC people are talking about. The also is that the expenditure side of the what do you do with the money you're collecting? What are you doing with the tax, all the tax you're collecting? Are the citizens feeling this? Listen, I give you one line also that when tax compliance increases, when citizens see value. When citizens see value, that what are you doing with their tax, it becomes easy for them to pay their tax. And those are the messages that have to be pushed out by the NRS. Very important.
Do you see this target being achievable for them in light of these points you've made?
It's achievable.
But someone's going to pay the price. Someone's going to pay the price for it.
But the issue is that what do we need to do to make sure it's done? If it's a station of, of course, it's achievable as I answered you. But if it's aggressive tax collection, it can be achieved. If it's grow the economy, make life easier for the businesses, it will be achieved.
All right.
And that's my message for you.
So ultimately, we brace up for either option. Well, if you joined us midway, I've been chatting with Arise business analyst Chika Mbonu. As always, Mr. Chika, thank you so much. We'll see you again tomorrow.